So both RTL and UPF file, any file you touch in your design when you're designing, you will be starting from the scratch and you'll be going up to the final layout level execution. So let me give some details about UPF. UPF is not HDL dependent. HDL means hardware description language. Either it can be a Verilog, system Verilog, or VHDL, whatever it is, right? So it is not dependent on that. It is very much independent of it. That is the advantage of your UPF. It consists of simple and verbose tickle command. It describes the power intent of it. So it just simply describes what is the power intent, and it is simply done through the tickle commands. I think if you know basic tickle commands, those are the things which are getting used in your power intent description. And this is standardized as IEEE 108 to 209. That is mainly for your UPF 2.0. And there are a lot of versions now. It is moved to 3.1, 3.2, everything. So now some tools are not compatible and industry is not moved in that direction. But this is a main key version which is used across the industry. No need to modify the RTL explicitly. Whenever you're modifying UPF, you don't need to do any modification for the RTL. So that is the advantage. You don't need to touch RTL files for your power reduction techniques. You are making it as independent. It allows power-aware simulations of the design to be appropriately controlled and power strategies described in the power intent. So you can do the power simulations. So you can control what should be your power strategies. I'll talk about that power strategies in the later slide, and whatever you described in your power intent. And it can be used for electronic designing or an IP. So it can be like a bottom to top approach. You can give a UPF at the bottom level. I can at maybe I am doing a bigger chip, I can integrate all these IPs, multiple IPs, and then create my own configuration, whatever I need. Still, I can tell from my top also that, okay, this domain has to be connected to different supply also. That can also be done. I'll talk about that domains in next slides. It allows power to be considered at the earlier stages of the design. This helps in two ways. One is time saving, design cycle can be saved, and consistent power strategies can be maintained from starting to end by having same UPF file as reference. So what we do is we can run the conformal tools or LEC tools where we check whatever is being given from the architecture team, is it same from the end. If it is same, then it's well and good. If something has got created or extra is been added, that can be caught also from the UPF file itself. So let us go now into details about what kind of constructs we have in UPF. The main construct is your set scope. Set scope is nothing but telling where should be I be when I reading your UPF file. And set design top, that means that like how you specify what should be a top module when you do an elaboration or when you do run your simulation, right? You have to specify similar way for UPF also. That is done from set design top command. And you can tell what should be your UPF version, because tools will understand the different version in a different way. Even though commands are different, right? It will not go and understand the commands directly without giving the proper version. So you should tell what should be your UPF version with UPF version 2.0 or 2.1 or 3.0 or whatever it is, right? So those can be controlled with UPF version. Then another key command is a create power domain command. Create power domain command is mainly meant for creating your logical hierarchies. You have module A and you have module B, and you want to tell, okay, module A is need to be in a power domain A and module B to be on a power domain B. That is what you can tell with the create power domain. So once you create the differentiation between this module A and module B, you can associate them to the different supply also. That is the advantage of having the power domain. So at least one power domain should exist in your design. More than one is what you are expected to define. That is the advantage. But without any power domain, UPF cannot be written. That is the implication of it. Then you have to create a supply port. So whenever you are creating a design, you need to have supply ports. Actually, in an older days, they were creating supply ports directly in your RTL file, and whenever they want to add and remove, it have to touch the RTL files. That creates a lot of implication. So the UPF construct helps you to create the supply port also. So they are more independent now. You can still be telling, okay, these are my 5 different supply ports I want to create. Okay, tool, you write the constructs, then tool will create that supply ports explicitly. So once we have the port, we should have a net. That net with nothing but your wire. Okay, that is explicitly created with the create supply net command. Then once you have this, you have to connect this. I think as of now this is not there here, but you should be having a connect command called connect supply net command, which connects your net to port. So that connection is done. Then we have to have set domain supply net. That means that what should be your supply net associated with a power domain. That is explicitly done with the set domain supply net command. And another command you have is your create power switch. This power switch command is mainly to control the leakage current in your logic. Whenever you don't have any logic switching on, and your still power is on, we can switch it off. Like it is like a electrical switch, whatever you have in your house, right? So similar way, you have a switch design internal to the design, and whenever you want, you on it off, on it in. Whenever you don't want, you make it off. That is the way you have to do it. So these are mainly driven or controlled internally. Also, there is some logic which creates different kind of control signals internally, and which will tell you, okay, this scenario I want this power switch to be on, and after some time I don't want it, is I'm going to sleep, I can completely switch it off the power. So that is a way which is internally done by create power switch command. Then there are some commands which are mainly to map. So these are mainly to tell that, okay, what kind of cells I need to use when I implement your power switch command. So that is done by the map power switch command. And another key thing is your create PST table. PST is nothing but power state table. Okay, where it will be dictating or telling is what should be our different supply sequence. Like I have a supply A and B, and what should be it sequence, whether it both should be on at a time, or whether should be off and on, or on off, vice versa, right? So those are the ones which will be defined. We'll talk about this in more example, you'll understand better. So mainly the key thing is you need to define this construct whenever defining UPF. Without this, it will not be validating anything in your static tools, telling that, okay, your scenario is met or not. To create a PST table, we need a port state, like telling that whatever port you have, what should be the state, whether it should be on state, whether it should be an off state. Okay, and the on state, what should be the value, and in off state, what should be your value. That is also told or dictated in add power state, add port state. Another one thing is your add PST state. Add PST state, where you tell, okay, I have all defined in the port state, and I need to add that port state into my PST table. That is explicitly done with add PST state command. Then we have a command called set isolation, where you tell, I want to put an isolation signal. The isolation is mainly done whenever you're crossing from an on off domain to a more on domain. So that is mainly we need an isolation. We'll show that. I think maybe I'll show you in the next slides where this isolation cells will come in. But this isolation tells will tell that I want a particular special cell in low power design, and that should not propagate X value into my design. That is defined with isolation. And for that isolation, we need a control signal. We need to tell what should be our control signal for an isolation cell. That is done from set isolation control command. Another command called set level shifter command. Whenever you're crossing between a different voltage from an high to low or low to high, you have to define your level shifters that are mainly to convert from an high voltage to a low voltage. Those are done from set level shifter command. And there is something called set retention command. These are mainly to whenever you're coming, whenever you are switching off your device and coming back. So it takes some time to compute the value, what has to be, what should be the older value. So to retain that older value, we use a retention registers. Okay, that is mainly done with red set retention command. And for the same command, we should have some control signal for retention registers. that is explicitly defined from set retention control. And we should, whenever we are doing implementation, what kind of cells we have to map for retention is done from map retention cell. Another key command is whenever you are doing an hierarchical UPF, you use a load UPF. That means that I am at top level and I have a child A and B. What I'll do is I load UPF A dot UPF and I load UPF load UPF underscore B dot UPF. A and B are my child UPF, which I can directly load into our parent domain. Whenever you want to save the UPF in the UPF construct, you have to do the save UPF so that it saves the whatever UPF you have defined whenever you are doing implementation, right? That can be done with save UPF command. I think name format doesn't have much significance. Let us go in more details about what cells we talked, right? I think mainly on the low power cells, we'll talk about isolation, level shifter, retention, cells, and power switch cells. These are the key 4 cells. We'll talk about it in our low power design. So if you see, these are the few cells. We'll talk more details. These are the key things: power switch cell, isolation cell, level shifter cell, and always on buffer cells. If you go into details, power switch cell. So the power switch is something like this. You have a VDD and you have a design with a lot of gates, and you don't want this particular circuit, and it just whenever I am not using this circuit, I just want to cut off this supply. So I have a switch which will be off and it will save my power. So this is mainly inserted between your main supply and the virtual supply. So virtual supply is nothing but VDD virtual. So this VDD virtual will be on only when these circuits are really functioning. And VDD virtual will be going to off when these circuits are not really functioning. So that saves a lot of leakage power. So it's not saving your dynamic power here, it is saving your leakage power. We are not reducing or trying to remove the functionality here, but we are keeping the functionality as it is, and based on the functionality we are trying to control on off mechanism here. And the constructs used for this is a create power switch, and the other construct where when you do an implementation is a map power switch command. So let us understand more about isolation cell. So you have an off domain here and you have an active logic here, and this is going to an power gate. That means that X is getting driven from here. This has, if you don't put an isolation, this X will go and corrupt all the active logic and it disturbs the whole logic computation. So to prevent that X propagation, what we do is we do put an cell called isolation cell, and we put this enable also in an active logic, means that this will also be more on, and we'll tell this enable signal that, okay, I am going into off and this has to be enabled, and it will be clamping to some predefined value. That if you put an AND gate, it will be clamping it to 0. If you put an OR gate, it will be clamping to 1. So you'll get a 0 here instead of an X when you put an isolation cell, so that the other logic, what it is doing or behaving, it can compute it rightly. And then the commands used for this is a set isolation and a set isolation control and a map isolation cell. These are the 4 commands which will be helping out to you to whenever you are defining an isolation cell. Then coming to level shifter cell. Level shifter cell is mainly whenever you are doing a level shifting between an high voltage to low voltage or low voltage to high voltage, both vice versa. You see here, if you see here, there is 1 volt and there is a 2 volt design, which are running at different. This is a multi voltage design, which is which we, whenever you're crossing between this, you have to put a level shifter. Here it is in low to high, because it need to understand whatever you're providing as 0 has to be understood as a 0 here. Whether you're giving it 1, it has to be understood as 1 here. So there are 2 types of level shifters. One is called enable level shifter. Another one is a buffer type level shifter. Buffer type is nothing but you just see like a pass through. Whatever you give here, it just passes through there. Whenever you have enable level shifter, that means that it's a combination of your isolation plus level shifter. Those 2 are embedded into your components. So these will play a role whenever we have this scenario. If you see here, this whole thing and this and this logic are on different voltage, we need an isolation plus level shifter to understand it. Then always on buffering. So whenever your logic is going into off, and still we want some logic to be retained them, and we want to use them for some other purpose. So we will do that by always on buffering. So the power switch control signals, whenever you see, right, we are telling about isolation enable signal, power switch control signal, retention resistor control signal, and any feed through paths of always on. These are the things which need to be on always on. Even, and if you see this diagram, this whole yellow region is going into off. And if I put a normal buffer or normal cell here, that will also go into off, and this whole signal will be corrupted. So instead of that, I'm putting an always on buffer cell, which will be on instead of going into off state, and this particular path will be active. That is the advantage of having usage of an always on buffer cells. Those always on buffer cells can be of two type. One can be a single rail always on buffer cells, and another can be a dual rail always on buffer cells. Means that it'll have an your shutdown supply as well as the active supply also. That is a dual rail. And when you take up a single rail, it'll having only the always on supply to it. Then let us understand about retention resistors. So these are key things, retention, because it removes the latency, and it helps whenever you have a laptop, right? And when you want laptop to, whenever you're on, you want to restart from whatever you're saved. You don't want to delete the data, right? And you want to see that. To see that, the main key thing element in whenever they do a designing is they do with retention resistors. What it will do is, retention resistors are like two kind of flops internally built or designed. One flop will be having your value to store, another flop will be computing the logic. So it will be having both the supplies. If you see here, it is having a VDD supply also, and it is having a VDD backup supply also. VDD backup will never go into off state, but we can still off the VDD supply, that main register which is computing. So that it is mainly controlled with a save and restore signal. These two signals will be telling us, okay, whenever it is going into off, I need to save the data. It will be telling it save indication. And whenever power is up and I want to restore the data, it will be this signal will be activated and telling that, okay, I am already powered up. I want to restore the data what is stored in the second register to the first register, which is computing the logic. So that is the advantage. It just restores the value and starts computing from there instead of doing it from a scratch point of view. That whole latency of computation or the time needed for computing that logic will be completely eliminated when you use a retention registers. That are mainly done with set retention commands and set retention control command, where you tell what should be type of registers to be on retention, and set control command will be telling that what should be your save signal, restore signal. It will be telling internal to the RTL what the control signal names. And then map retention command, it will automatically map when you do an implementation. Then if you see the whatever we studied now, I'll just go through or walk you through a small example. Here, if you see, there are 4 domains. This is one domain, top domain, sub 1, sub 0, and sub 2. These are the 4 domains, and there are 2 hierarchies, like this one and this one, 2 hierarchies. Then a top level voltage is 1 volt. This top domain, right? If you see the gray one, which is 1 volt, and secondary domain is pointing at 0.99 volt. And the other secondary domain sub 1 is operating at 0.89 volt. And the secondary domain, this is also same. These two are the same hierarchies, right? If you see, these two are same hierarchies. And then this whole thing is at same voltage level. This is at 0.99 and this is 0.89 and this is also 0.89, and this top level is also 1 volt. So though totally we have 4 domains, 2 hierarchies, and this. So we'll talk about what are we doing in terms of isolations, level shifters, whatever we talked now, what we are doing here. So if you see here simply, right, whenever any interface which is coming from this top level to sub 1, they are putting a level shifter here that has to be placed in 0.89 volt. and it is converting from 1 volt to 0.89. And same way in vice versa mode, whenever this sub 1 is talking to a top, we are converting from an lower voltage to an higher voltage with a level shifter. And if you see here, the PM control logic, which is on more active logic and which will be more on, we'll talk about that in the PST table, the more on things. But if you just simply understand, there's a control logic which gives all the controls. It is going for isolation, it is going for retention, and for level shifter, we don't have any control. The retention, we have two controls. One is your save signal, another one is a restore signal, and we get back the feedback from retention register to this, and these are called power switches. Okay, and this is the main supply VDD, which is getting the virtual supply becomes the VDD sub underscore 2. And whenever we are talking here, right, whenever you see here, we are completely gating this logic, this all logic. So this gating things need to be isolated. That is the reason we put an isolation cell here, but the supply used from a top, and then whatever goes here, we are just using them with isolation signal. So next part, whenever you see, right, how do we design them? Now we have this, and how do we actually design these whole things? So if you see here, first thing what we do is we create the supply net VDD. This VDD we create, and we create supply net VDD of sub 1. We create all the supply nets. This sub 1 VDD ground. At what level? Domain is top domain. Then you create a supply net VDD at subdomain level. This domain level you created here net. Now this only thing is getting created when you do this command, and whenever you want a net to be created at your sub 0 level, you create it, but you tell reuse. That means that I'm trying to reuse whatever created at top level into my child level here. Similar way, they are created this is not a reuse, because you're creating explicitly internal to this, right? Because it's a power switch, a power gated logic. And then there is a net which is getting created called ground, which is also reuse stuff, which is getting reused from whatever is created from the top level. And when you come to sub 1, similar thing, you're creating and reusing them. And then it's sub 2 is also same thing. So this is first step, you created all your supplies here. Next step, you should look at, okay, once we have the supply, we should tell now, okay, where is our level shifter requirement details. If you see here, these voltages are differing, right? 0.89 to your 1 volt. That is the reason we want an isolation here. Sorry, level shifter here. And then whenever you have coming from 1 volt to 0.89, you're putting a level shifter here. So these two are the only places where we actually see are crossing the level shifter thing. Another thing is the same thing, the sub 2, because it is also at 0.89. And if whenever it talks from top to bottom, top to your sub 2, there also we are putting a level shifter, and in the vice versa mode. And this block is not actually talking anything to it is not talking to the other one. The sub 0 block is not interfacing or talking to sub 2 or sub 1. That is the reason we don't have a level shifter. Other than that, if you are really talking, there also we need a level shifter. So how do we define the level shifter? If you see here, right, set level shifter sub 1 to top, and the domain is sub I1, and applies to output. That means that all the outputs what are coming out here will have a level shifter here. And they are telling location parent. So this is the child partition, and this is the parent partition. So you see, this is the parent and this is a child, and the location they're telling, they are putting it in parent. So if you see the other one, we're telling domain as sub BL1 applies to input. You're also putting in this direction, and the rule is I to low, because we are crossing from an I domain to a low domain. Here we are not told. If you don't tell also, it defaultly puts from low to I. That is the reason we are not specifying here. And the location here specified is self. So that means that it is getting inserted here instead of this. So if you want to put it this also into parent domain, you can just change it to parent domain. That will not impact here, because these are not creating any problems with respect to on-off sequence. Next part is, so actually the thumb rule says that wherever we are creating a level shifter, you should put it into a driver domain. That is the reason they put it as self and parent, because the driving logic is in parent here and the driving logic here is the self. That is the reason it has been put here. So similar thing, they are doing it for sub 2. So now let us see how the isolation coding happens in our same design. So they are creating an isolation, and isolation, this is the isolation strategy name, and this is your domain where you are putting an isolation, and the isolation, what should be the supply for the isolation, right? Isolation cell mainly, it should be a VDD, and what should be a ground, it is a ground, and then the clamp value, whether it should be an AND type isolation cell or an OR type isolation cell is mainly told with the clamp value. Then we have a set isolation control command where we are telling same thing, that isolation strategy name and domain name, and this is the isolation signal, right? This is a signal which will be enable signal for this isolation, telling that okay, I want to enable this isolation or not enable isolation. Then we have to tell that okay, with respect to this signal, whether it has to be sensed high or sensed low, and the location where it has to be placed. If you see, we cannot place it in this domain. The reason is that this domain is going into off. That is the reason we are putting into parent domain. We have to keep it, especially whenever we're designing an isolation cell, we have to keep it in a more on domain. That more on domain, how to figure out, we'll find out from the PST table in the next slide. So coming to the port state, that means that this, we're talking about a port state. The port state, what it do is, it will define what port, what value it should be. So if you're telling that add port state, this is a VDD, and the state voltage value is 0.99. Similar way, we are defining for all the other ports, okay? And then we'll go into the actual PST table. Here we are telling create PST table and the supplies, whatever supplies are there, VDD, then this power gated supply, then VDD sub 1 and VDD sub 2. These are the different supplies we have, and what should be the value with respect to them. And if you see PST0, if you understand this table, the same whatever you put here, it is put up in the same table here. PST0, if you see, it is telling that VDD-N, and this is on, and VDD-I and sub-I. The values, if you see here, it will be like values here from here. So you are getting it as 0.99 and 0.89 and 0.89. That is the one, what is the values you have here. So if you see here, you're getting actual, when it tools try to read your PST table, it unrolls the value, whatever is there for these variables from your port state command. Whatever it is, the VDD-VNN 0.99, that is what it gets substituted here. And SW on, it gets the value from this table, where it is not there here, but you get from that particular table. And the value for this also will be substituted here. And this is straightforward. We are taking all the supplies on, that is first sequence. The next sequence, what we are doing is, this is on same supply, and this is going to off, and this we are converting into lower voltage. So if you see this table, we have a crossing. If you have any crossing from year to year, that means that we need an isolation. That is what we understand our tools try to treat and make sure we are missing isolation or having isolation on those parts. That is the importance of the PST table. So first it understands your table and figure out, are there any crossing from this domain to this domain, and because our state is going to off and still this is active. Similar way, it does same thing for others. So based on that, we create an isolation strategy also. But this is the tool. Tool treats this and understand it and cross checks what we are implemented is right. And if you see here, how does the tool understand whether we want a level shifter on those paths? So one thing it does try to understand is your sub low to VDD VNN if you have any paths, because this is on a lower voltage. Because if you see here, the voltage is 0.69 and it is on a 0.99. This actually needs level shifter. That is how the static tools will understand and figure out what you implemented is right here. Similar way, VDIL low, it will also cross check between your VDDIN and this thing. So that is the key thing where the PST table plays role. This doesn't play a role when you do an implementation. This plays a role when you do a static verification or a sign off. Okay, and coming to the real things, what we do, how do we validate what we have done or created the UPF as of now. So there are different steps in that. One is your functional verification, another one is implementation and equivalence checking, and timing, power, sign off. So what we do is first one is you have your RTL and UPF. You do run different tools called VCS or MVSIM or some tools from Cadence to understand or functionally verify that everything is correct or not. Then we also take run the formality to check, okay, what we have with respect to RTL versus what we have with respect to the design compiler or synthesized netlist. So design compiler just converts your RTL level to a gate level, and it creates a gate level and gate level UPF file. These two things are fed into formality to check whether these two are equivalent. And we can still run gate level simulation with the same tools in the functional verification. Similar way, after your gate level, you just do the place and route and a lot of things in terms of layout, everything. That also we get out UPF in terms of gate level, and it is a modified UPF called UPF double slash. So here also we do an equivalence check between these two versus RTL to UPF. Both are checked. So it is this way as well as this way. Both are cross checked so that we are not functionally failed here. And then we run a static tools or static environment functionally verification with static tools also, like MVRC, MVSIM. Different tools are used for that. Then same UPF, whatever you generated from design compiler will go to your prime time. That is mainly for the timing estimation tool. Those also will use your UPF file. We don't functionally check here, but I think still it will report if we have missed something functionally in their runs also. So totally we are cross-checking functional functionality in simulation, after simulation static tools, and as well as the formal or as well as your conformal tools to functionally we have created a right UPF, and that UPF is implemented properly and it doesn't have any functional power bugs inside that. So if you see, this is one of the thing whatever we saw in the design, right? So I'm just captured all the summaries in this slide, telling that what all we learned. We learned about power switch. We learned about power domain. This is the domain what I was talking. This is called a default domain, and this is called your secondary domain. And I have talked about how do you create a net and how to associate them to the net, or if you want to reuse the net, how do you use that? And then what are the different kind of power cells which can use for saving the logic, which is mainly retention registers, and and what kind of cells we want to use in terms of low power when you are switching from an high voltage to a low voltage or low voltage to an high voltage, respect to using level shifters. Then how to safeguard your input values to the other on domains with an isolation cell. Those are the key things. Whatever I talked, I just put up summary in this particular slide here. So let us now go into our career opportunity in the low power design. So there are multiple opportunities in low power. You can start working, means you think you can become a low power design micro architect, which is done from the RTL level itself. And because the micro architect just tells, okay, this is my logic and this to be a domain, everything, but he doesn't even code and he doesn't work on the UPF. So there will be a guy who codes the UPF part, that is mainly the UPF design engineer with the front end, back end, because a lot of things comes into the play. Whatever in the front end, we may not be as it is using the back end. There are a lot of other key components which get designed in the back end. Some cells which need to be powered hook up properly, those are taken care from the back end UPF designer. And you need to also involved in signing off the quality whatever UPF is giving to the back end and the front end. Those are the low power sign off engineers. You will be mainly doing the validation part, whatever you have with respect to the gate level versus UPF, or netlist was your RTL versus UPF. Those are the sign off engineers. This has opportunity in terms of EDA tools also, because in the EDA tools also you'll be working or helping the design execution teams that they are able to use the tools in a proper way to sign off their UPF. And then there is something called SOC UPF integration engineers. SOC means like a complex chip which has a multiple IPs integrated into that. Whenever you have multiple IPs which is coming in, when the integration becomes a big problem, because they are coded in some other and we need to use in a different fashion. They are coded the IP to be on more on domain or something else, and we want to use their IP in a different way. So those are the challenges where the UPF integration happens, and I think those opportunities are there whenever you are doing integration aspect. Then the other part of career opportunity is your low power validation engineers. Like you will be running RTL or a gate level simulations. This validation mainly I'm talking about simulation, the functional verification and formality. Not formality. For this cross checking the tools, like you find any bugs like without using static tools also. There are some corner cases where we can find, and before we hand it to backend, those also can be caught or validated in low power checks. So those are the things we have opportunities. Then another thing is the main key thing is the power estimation and sign off engineer. He will also be means this low power opportunity will be helping out or grooming you in power estimation also. Power estimation is the main key things to understand whether we need to do an improvement in the our design in respect to reducing the power. So without that we don't have anything, right? So we want to first estimate, understand, analyze, then go reduce it. So that's the key thing, the key charter in terms of power estimation and signing off, telling us okay, we are converged and we have met our all targets whatever we are decided, and we are reached that. Another thing is you have a lot of opportunities on the EDA tools development, because these all tools whatever I listed are almost like 10-20 tools from a different vendors and different companies, which need to support in terms of either a functional simulation or an implementation or your PNR or maybe the validation, right? Every tool has to read the UPF. That is the key thing where you have opportunities in terms of tool development side as well as the tool support side also. So those are the key areas where you have the opportunities in terms of low power